if your hormones are down, your thyroid's sluggish, you're not going to burn as efficiently. And then you add in 5 years of dieting behind it and you got metabolic adaptations harder. There's just more that has to be done than just saying CICO.
Obviously, I love the fact of what you talked about with being proactive versus being reactive. And I know that in the space, there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, you don't have to do that, until you got to do it. And it's like, oh, dude, I would much rather be proactive. So I love your mindset there. We're going to transition into kind of talking about the nutritional coaching space as a whole.
Sure.
In general. And this is one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on. Because again, individuals like yourself and Vince kind of like pioneered a lot of bringing this stuff into the fitness coaching space with bodybuilders and with specifically like physique athletes. And I suppose up until this moment in time, like we had some good studies out, some things that could kind of serve as guidelines to kind of say, hey, this works, maybe this doesn't. What are the key differences in evidence-based coaching versus functional nutrition coaching? What's your take on that? And how do you think they should be bridged? Because there's so many positives on both sides. Yeah. How do you think they should be bridged?
So, I think the biggest disconnect, if someone's just straight evidence-based, they're going to only, it seems like, be rigid and believe calories in, calories out. So, they're big on CICO, and I get that.
Yeah.
When the body's healthy, but no, I do trust my clients. If they tell me 100% I'm on my shit, I believe them. I'm not cheap, and my clients are usually pretty high up in the sport. And if they say I'm not cheating, I believe it. So I think, that's one of the issues with the CICO, and it's just like, no, hormones don't matter. It's just, you got to eat less. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're to the point where you can't lose on 1,200 calories, something else is going on. And sure, if I take you to 500, you might lose, but at the end of the day, you're going to be way worse off when you come off of it. So I think that's a big disconnect in the space between, people that are just straight up evidence-based. They don't want to give any credence to hormonal dysregulation and dysfunction. If your hormones are down, your thyroid's sluggish, you're not going to burn as efficiently. And then you add in 5 years of dieting behind it and you got metabolic adaptations harder. There's just more that has to be done than just saying CICO, or citing that study where I don't know that, I forget what it's called. You might know it, but they starved people.
Oh yeah.
I
know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I forget what you call it, but some people's got to eat that way. But, I think that's probably the biggest disconnect.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I also think that people say evidence-based, right? I think it's important for people to actually start to look deeper for some of this information, because you can find really good studies. You can find really good information that does actually tie in functional nutrition coaching principles to evidence-based, physique coaching. But you have to be able to think outside the box. You have to be able to analyze and say, okay, well, hey, if this, female physique person or maybe athlete dieted for 16 weeks, we can clearly see in this research that her testosterone went from this and it dropped down to this. We can clearly see that her T3 went from this and it dropped down to this. And even though we reverse dieted her the same way that we linearly dieted her down to get her on stage, she still 4 to 6 months after has not returned back to baseline. There are research studies out there that I don't think people are looking for them, or maybe they're just waiting to be presented with the data. But the reality is that there's a lot of dots out there to be connected. And I just wish people would get outside of just what's popular and stuff and actually start to dig a little bit deeper, because you really can connect the dots. So, for all the individuals out there that might say, hey, all detoxification is bull crap, all hormone dysfunction, it isn't real, it doesn't exist. If you have a female client that has a hormone imbalance, send them to the endo or send them to their primary care or whatever it may be. Or the individuals that are saying nobody can eat low calories and not lose body fat. Like the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is that there are other things that you can do beyond just continuing to beat yourself into the ground, which you've likely already done for the last 3, 5, 10 years in a row. And a lot of that has to do with regaining your internal health so that your external body can actually respond to what you're trying to do. What do you want to see happen in the nutritional coaching space in the next 3 to 5 years? What's the vision?
Well, I think my ultimate vision is where coaching is well respected with doctors and other clinicians, because we're here to stay. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people are looking for health coaches and hiring health coaches. So I think where we need to go is a blend between coaches and doctors and being able to work hand in hand. It's really disheartening when I send a client to get labs because they really want to use insurance, and the doctor's like, I'm not running cortisol. You don't need free T3. You don't need free testosterone. You don't even need your hormones. Let's just do a CBC and a CMP. I'll make sure you're not dying, and out the door you go, Yep. And so that's unfortunate, that they aren't like, oh, okay, well, you're with a nutritionist, you're with a coach. Sure. I'll be able to, we'll code that and get it for you. It's just like, no, we can't do that. Well, they don't want to dig through the codes. So I really want there to be a blend where it flows for the best care for everyone involved. And doctors, they're great for what we need them for, but we do know that, like, with insurance and everything, they have less and less time to see patients.
100%.
So it's like, okay, if I have less time to really delve into what kind of stress is this person under? What's their home life like? What's their career like? If you don't have time to get into all that and discuss some of self-care and nutrition, well, coaches are there to do that. That's why at my clinic, I own an HRT clinic, Advanced Vitality HRT. We always have our NPs email the coach and let them know what the treatment was. So you don't just hand them off and there's no connection between the clinic and you. Mm-hmm. You have a direct connection with our NP in case you have to either put in, a suggestion or just say, hey, I've worked with them. I don't know if that treatment's going to be great. 9 out of 10, the coaches just, agree and move forward, but at least they're in the know. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to create that symbiotic relationship. And that's where I hope in 3 to 5 years we are.
And the cool thing is, even just like with what you've said, you have a very successful nutritional coaching company. You've actually started your own lab and you guys are actually working synergistically. So the very thing that you're telling us you wish would happen, you've already created.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. That was one of the biggest reasons that I went that route. I mean, obviously there's a lot of problems in the industry and that's for a whole nother podcast. But
yeah,
I wanted to really try to start setting the, example to have that type of relationship.
Yeah.
So,
and you absolutely have. There's a lot of coaches that are going to be listening to this podcast. And I think that a lot of coaches right now, it's almost like if they take one course and they expect to be an expert or a genius or a professional at it, right? And maybe they sign on with, somebody that's offering a course, or maybe they go through somebody like you said you went through Nutridyne, or maybe you go through like the Institute of Functional Medicine, or you go through one of these organizations. I'm noticing that there's a lot of people that are almost like expecting, hey, if I do this, like I'm cream of the crop. But they don't understand that, like, Jason, you've been in the industry for 15 years. Yep. I've been in the industry 12, 13 years. And some of my most valuable lessons came from failure.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So can you talk to some of the coaches listening to this about how important it is to literally like spend your time in the trenches, pay your dues, fail forward, and ultimately learn from those experiences?
Yeah. We kind of hit on this earlier, but like, the trends I had seen where I couldn't help is what sparked me to get to this point. And so had I not had those failures and been in the trenches on that and seeing these issues and feeling kind of helpless like the client did, I don't know that I would have pushed to that area. So, it's always kind of an issue in our industry to have that imposter syndrome and think you're not ready and this and that. But, at the end of the day, if you're someone who's trying to get educated, trying to learn this stuff, you're going to do more good for them than not. If they go to someone who, one, doesn't know it at all, or number two, they're just trying to rely on their doctor. So, I would say it's hugely important to fail forward. Expect it. Don't let it hurt your ego too much, although it will probably a little bit at first, and move forward, and then let it empower you to get more educated. Seek out more classes, more certifications, more seminars. All those things will help build your knowledge base, but also they help build your network.
It's very important to clearly identify who you really want to work with. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because oftentimes there's a lot of stuff that maybe we're talking about that's very new to a lot of people that hear it. And oftentimes people are attracted to things that are new or shiny and, and all that. But it's you really got to evaluate really who you're on fire to help, who you want to be able to coach. If you just want to focus on physique coaching, then guess what? You should worry about this stuff because you have to recover all of your physique athletes. If you want to work with Gen Pop individuals, right, and you never want to have to worry about hormonal profiles and all that, then you better have a good screening process in place to make sure that you're not taking on a case that you don't know how to help. Because obviously you have a big nutrition coaching team, you have great coaches on your staff, but in reviewing a lot of labs and getting a lot of MSQs back and stuff like that on a daily basis to basically make sure, hey, are these people, they're already healthy, we can take them into a fat loss phase, they're going to have a great transformation, or, they are in need of some functional nutrition help. How many individuals would you say you've noticed actually need to focus on functional nutrition first, versus the other side of already being healthy? They've spent a year reversing and, they're super healthy, they can dive into it. What percentage of people do you think actually need the help?
I'd say that of my men, 90% of them come back with a pretty low score on the MSQ.
Yep.
I'd say 90% of my women come back with a bad MSQ score, and I got to delve into shit. Now, that could be because of my reputation for helping, so I'm drawing those clients, but that's what I'm seeing. If I get a female who has a 4, 5, 6, 7, even sub 10 on the MSQ, I'm whoa, all right. That's great. It doesn't happen that often. Yeah. And again, that could be because of the info I've put out, what I'm known for. So I'm drawing more of those, but I would say even based on my old data from back in the day, if you're a coach out there and you work with females, I'd say about 50% of them are probably going to have some issues that need to be cleaned up if they've been in this space a while. A new body, no. And, I love getting new females because I can show them how to do it and stay healthy. But if they've been in this industry for a while, they probably made some mistakes. And so you're looking at about 50%, I think, probably, unless, that's what you do and people are coming to you specifically for that.
We like to utilize 3 different types of intervention when we're trying to restore a client's health, right? It's lifestyle intervention, which some would argue would be the most important, the dietary intervention, and then supplementation intervention. Inside of your coaching, which one of those or which combination of those do you feel has the most power to basically help a woman or a male restore metabolism in the fastest way?
Well, so when I kind of teach this, functional is at the last rung, and that's where you bring in supplementation. Up before that, I've got rest, flush, feed, which is the diet. And then finally, you get down to function. So right there, you can just see from my rung and how I teach it, rest is immediately what my mind goes to when you got these problems. So I'm immediately already thinking, all right, I got to look at their training. How are they training? What are they doing? How can I adjust this? How do I get that stress bucket less full with training? So honestly, I think the rest and nutrition, if I have to put an importance on them, are the most important. Now, if you say, yeah, but I've reversed before and I rested, well, that's where the nutritional supplements come in because it helps that brain overreaccess to recommunicate if you're dealing with females. But yeah, if you just threw the supplements at someone and they didn't rest and they kept training like they were and maybe they're under eating and continually always in that diet mindset, their supplements ain't gonna do shit. Mm-hmm. So it all has to work together, but I'd say more of that lifestyle and nutrition is the biggest piece. But again, there's people that got fed up and it didn't work. So that's where those supplements got to come in too. So it's all important, but that's the way I would kind of rank it.
Jason, man, just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Also wanted to take a moment also and just acknowledge you for, the work that you've done. The movement, the pioneership inside of, learning more about functional nutrition, bringing that to an evidence-based nutritional coaching space, and really having it. I mean, it's blown up in the last 3-4 years, and a lot of that has to do with you, man. So I just want to take a moment and say thank you and provide you some level of acknowledgement, because I'm seeing so much of this stuff being utilized in the industry that it was great to chat.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I appreciate the time you spent as well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. So, all right, everybody, this has been Hey Coach Radio. Jason Theobald, owner of Scooby Prep. Jason, where can everybody reach out to you? How can they contact you?
Sure. My email is a great way to do it. Jason@scoobyprep.com. If you DM me on Instagram, I am terrible about checking that other folder. So if we're not friends, it'll just sit, and I finally get in there, but I forget. I think I actually need to check it now. It's probably been a week. You can, but to find me on Instagram, you can literally type my name in, it should pull up, but it's Scooby Prep, 1_IFBB Pro. And those are the main ways I think that, people should go ahead and get a hold of me. If they want to, they can go to the website for Scooby Prep, and that's just scoobyprep.com.
Awesome, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And on behalf of myself and Jason Theobald, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you all, and we'll see you in the next episode.